Oh, Disney. Disney. Once a company so beloved for its originality. I mean, Disney's a pretty big umbrella term considering they're also genuinely working on good original-ish content, but you know what I'm talking about today. While Disney may own everything making original content from a business perspective, and there is the occasional new thing from the Disney core, everything is grossly outweighed by the abundance of Disney redos in production for everything made in the past 80 years. And hey, it's a rare appearance of the Coming Back series, which I imagine will probably be retired after this episode. Kinda merges with the adaptation series, you know? Still, in this case, it existed before, as we're talking about how now Lilo and Stitch is coming back. Yes, you heard that right, and in standard Disney remake form. Though actually, there's a few interesting diversities cropping up in the production of this movie that makes it more than your standard Lion King-like follow-up. So come join for yet another jaunt into corporate nostalgia. As a brief synopsis for Lilo and Stitch, which I imagine you already know, I'll remind you again anyway, the plot of the first original film covers the story of a lonely 6-year-old girl, Lilo, in her hometown of Hawaii, wanting to finally have a friend, some kind of angel that God can bestow upon her. Enter Stitch, an alien experiment ugly dog thing that is soon adopted into the family and brings with him all sorts of alien shenanigans. The film is charming, progressive, and highly praised by the cult following audience it gained in the years afterwards, many loving the realistic and less than perfect family dynamic of Lilo and her older sister Nani, whilst others loved the more grounded themes and concepts briefly touched upon, such as Lilo's distaste, or at least dejectedness, of the mass tourism that occurs in the area. And with the pretty good successes of the film, a franchise was sparked pretty quickly, giving us 2 additional sequel films as well as a whole TV show, only allowing for all the more expansion of the Stitch universe ever further. I don't have a lot of memories of the TV show, but it's in there somewhere. We'll talk more about it in a bit. So with somewhat of a demand brewing, or at least enough success to put it on the list of remakes to make, like the 12th slot at this point, it has been set in motion. This isn't exactly a new surprise for Disney audiences. I mean, it was kind of hard to avoid the Lion King remake, but here's what we know so far. The good news and the bad news. For a start, the biggest and most predictable point is that this will be a live-action CGI hybrid project, like a CGI Stitch in Lilo's live-action world, so prepare for the classic inner car sequence, I guess. But really, I guess this kind of makes sense, right? The only hurdle is from the actual practicalities in faithfully portraying all of this design into something 3D and realistic, whilst also fitting nicely into the actual live-action world around it. In fact, actually, the more you think about it, the harder this simple idea gets to actually execute on. I mean, look at this. The actual art style of the Lilo and Stitch world isn't super naturalistic. Lilo herself has kind of like a massive Muppet-shaped mouth and head kinda going on. So if she was fully CG'd into a 3D design, it'd look awfully odd. But instead, with it being a hybrid live action, she is now to have normal proportions. Okay, so now how do you make Stitch work with that? Especially because for the plot to make sense, at least slightly, it has to be somewhat passable that Stitch is to look like some kind of ugly dog.
That is the ugliest thing I have ever saw. Yeah!
And not an abomination. Or are we just gonna have to suspend our disbelief real hard to say that it just works? And actually, some of the hoops that will need to be jumped through in order to make this work at all have already been indicated. After all, Lilo is said to be a 6-year-old girl, a very mature one at that. Translating that into live action isn't gonna work out too well. And the casting reflects that, possibly. After all, there are rumors, mostly from the Diz Insider, claiming that 16-year-old Sienna Agudon has potentially been cast to play Lilo, or at least is in talks of it. It's a rumor, so we'll see. Still, suggesting that we'll be aging up a whole bunch to fit the mature theme of Lilo much more effectively. I could believe it, but do be aware this is just a rumor at the moment, and maybe they'll go for... I've got all sorts of thoughts. It's rumors. I won't go too into it. Now, this project was originally announced back in 2018, and while progress has been seemingly stagnant for the past few years, only as of 1 year ago did news start cropping up moving us into action, with the original plans being to begin filming in Hawaii during autumn of 2020. This was of course reported back in February of 2020, before the proper recognition of how the year would go. So presumably, production has been delayed at least somewhat, and the original guesses of a late 2021 release will probably bleed into next year or beyond. Even still, many pillars of the production have already been put in place, starting off with the voice actor for Stitch. Back in 2002, Chris Sanders was the voice of the iconic little gremlin, and this time around, 20 years later, it's gonna be Chris Sanders again. Whew. Probably the answer we were all to be rooting for anyway. As for the rest of the original team, it's not the same story. Beyond Stitch, no other casted members are officially set in stone, but we do know a chunk about the production team, with Dan Lin and Jonathan Eyrick being set to produce this Lilo and Stitch remake. Who are they? You've certainly seen their work before. These two are producers on the not too long ago Aladdin remake, and they're set to be making the sequel. Stalking them on IMDb, I also found they're collaborating on an Inspector Gadget remake, The Pink Panther, and have a track record of Death Note together. Oh god. And Dan's also got the newer Godzilla movies, the Lego Batman franchise, because there's a sequel there coming soon, as well as the upcoming live-action Avatar remake on Netflix under his belt. These things just print money, don't they? Still, yes, very much in the business of Disney and live actions and remakes. Some hits, some misses. Further to that though, the writer of the screenplay is said to be Mike Van Ways, previously known for... Well, hopefully it's not too difficult considering the plot sounds to be pretty identical or at least similar to the original movie. Though, you never know, with a small franchise behind it, there is plenty of room for a little more expansive material from the universe, I guess. I mean, I haven't watched the TV show for years, but I'll always remember that among the Freak of the Week new experiments being introduced each episode, there was always that one that was not malicious at all and had simply wanted to create sandwiches all day. I think he's all of our spirit animals these days. Maybe he's a bad example, but hey, a dash of something new wouldn't be too horrible. Probably. Also, hey, invested this far in? Boost us in the algorithm with some multipliers. Join the rise of our subscribers, or check out our other links on the side. I've got a Discord chat with fans for the hour of an upload, and plenty more content on #DazReviews under the video. If you like streaming content, highlights will be there, and we're reigniting that flame every Wednesday from April onwards. Now, with all that information out of the way, let's get back into things. Now, while things so far sound a bit standard for the usual Disney remake formula, there is actually a bit of a context change to this production, because this movie isn't planned to get a full theatrical release, and is instead basically the modern version of a direct-to-video production, I guess. Cause yes, it is being slated as a Disney Plus exclusive. Like Lady and the Tramp years before it, Disney, I guess, wants to pump some more into the subscription service and see the successes blow up from there without the cost of the bigger screen. Will it pay off? I've not a clue. The track record for streaming releases do seem to give an optimistic view, and does allow for much more convenience for the average family, but I guess only time will tell. Is it reflective of a smaller investment to a smaller franchise that's disrespectful to the original IP and unfair to the bigwigs that get bigger attention and care? I'm not here to get heated over it. I'm personally cautious enough as it is. Besides, most of this information has come from over a year ago, so there's always a chance info pieces are to change. Or the effects of the pandemic have only highlighted the success of the Disney Plus business formula. Oops. Actually, the argument of cinema versus streaming continues further as we come to our director. Currently being negotiated with John M. Chu, previously known for Crazy Rich Asians. He is one of many personalities who have come out quite vocal about his opinions on maintaining the theatrical sanctity of film. So with him working on a project such as this, it'll be interesting to see if any changes are made in the future. But I wouldn't hold your breath, especially when looking at the fact that this is to go against the biggest corporation in the entire industry right now. And as a final couple of names to mention, we've also then got Zoe Kent and Louis Prevost set to be overseeing the entire production, working prior on the likes of Cruella, Mulan, and The Lion King, and a bunch of things I don't immediately recognize. I guess it's up in the air for some more newer crew members, which isn't necessarily a bad thing always. But you know, what happened to the original crew? What are their thoughts, and do we have any quotes? Well, what do you know, we do. And it isn't necessarily looking good. So for those of you who aren't in the know, the original Lilo and Stitch was directed by two main guys, Dean DeBlouse and Chris Sanders. Yes, the same one who also voices Stitch too. Suddenly this makes a whole lot more sense. Stitch was literally the co-director of his own movie. Now obviously Sanders is back on board for this new remake, but that doesn't mean he's 100% compliant, with the both of them being pretty vocal about their general distaste for Disney's decision to remake the project. As a couple of artistic creatives, I guess this shouldn't really come as a surprise, but digging into things further, Dean DeBlouse has a quote that goes as follows: "I'd rather see something original, especially for a studio that's such a pioneer of originality. That bugs me. Knowing how well-to-do the studio is, how capable they are of taking risks, and watching them not take risk. What bothers me the most is that it seems to suggest the animated version of it is lesser. It is a lesser form than the expensive, glossy live action." And I gotta say, he makes a damn good point. I can especially imagine the strife he must feel, considering the efforts he and the rest of his team had put in to create the fluent art that is 2D animation, only to have it stomped over by a more hollow reinterpretation. Still, with Sanders back on board, perhaps the project won't be entirely derailed. Interestingly enough, with Disney movies each having their own signature eras, this is set to be the first post-Renaissance era film from Disney to be reproduced as a live-action remake, being a first for the more experimental stage of Disney. Interesting. And certainly lines up more with my personal childhood over something like The Lion King or Aladdin, so maybe you could say I'm a little more invested this time around, if not all the more wary. The original was granted an $80 million budget and returned back with triple the earnings at $273 million. So I guess we'll just have to see if this pricier version will do much the same on a larger scale. I'll certainly be buying a ticket or like pressing a button, if not at least because it's part of my job. Sorry. And if Lilo and Stitch just isn't your thing, there's plenty more adaptations coming back. Disney's got all the classics returning: Peter Pan, Bambi, The Little Mermaid, and even the remakes of remakes now, or at least sequels. Disney never changes. Oh, Disney, Disney, Disney. For now, if you want a new experience, I don't know, go read the upcoming Stitch manga, which is apparently a thing landing him in feudal Japan or something. Didn't know that was a thing till I researched it. Thanks, Tokyo Pop. Who are you? I shall see you not next week, as our double upload session ends this week, as does this coming back series as a regular in our schedule. You'll have to check our Friday video for the next hint. My name's been Daz, you didn't really care, and I'll see you in a bit.